What if I told you that the frustration and helplessness and hopelessness that you're feeling is not your fault? What if I told you that you're not a failure, you're growing? Now, it seems simple enough, right? But what if it were true? And I think it's only because you're using the tools that you were raised on. I had high expectations and a different measure of success in my first half than I now have in my second half. And this is the plight of a lot of different midlife men. They take these standards, these high expectations, these measures of success for outward things, achievements, goals, control, this identity of who we are. And we take that into our midlife transition. Of course we do, because that's the only way we know how to achieve. The problem is when we get stuck. The problem is when we start to grow and the first half identity that we have begins to melt away. And before we can actually learn to reconnect and create a second half self, we're stuck in the middle. And it doesn't feel good. For me, it was a symbol of a tire spinning in a ditch. This icy, snowy day. And just when I was about to get the tire up, it would slide back down again. And it was pretty bad. It was pretty terrible feeling like that. I felt like I was less of a man. I felt like I was a failure. And again, I was using those measures of success with the people around me. I compared myself to other people, my family members and my friends. I didn't have X, Y, and Z. But midlife is not a crisis. It's a transition. It's a transition from one self to another. And unfortunately, you're going to feel a lot of growing pains. But the solution is very simple. It's a labyrinth, and it holds the secret to helping you feel way better, way more confident, and hopefully a little more tolerant of uncertainty. Hi, Dave Barnish here, the Creative Midlife Man, and I help creative men navigate the challenges of midlife by transforming insight into meaningful momentum. So why labyrinths? The labyrinth is an ancient symbol that's been around for thousands of years. It's very mysterious and no one really knows its origin. But it's typically a symbol of transformation, either spiritual transformation or contemplation, or some even call it a metaphor for life itself. But before I get into that, let me tell you what it isn't. It isn't a spiral. It's not some continuous line that goes all the way to the center. And it's not a maze. A maze has dead ends in it, and it confuses the walker. A labyrinth is an indirect pathway towards the center. The labyrinth represents uncertainty in a way. And it does this by representing the space that you inhabit between who you were and who you're becoming. Walking the path is very, very interesting because it's not just the physical or metaphorical walking of this path that you go through, but you really go through a psychological change. It's a challenge in a way because there's a moment as you keep going closer to it, you're also going farther away from it. Now, this coincides with our own transition work in this mucky middle that we're feeling of helplessness and frustration because it represents this feeling of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But we're not taking steps forward or 1 step back. We just feel like that. The main difference between the labyrinth and the maze and the spiral is that if you keep on walking it, you're going to get in the middle. So it's not failure on your part. It's part of the design. When you walk the labyrinth path, and this is the biggest revelation that I had as I went through the labyrinth path myself. As I traced my finger through this very labyrinth, I noticed that. It's part of the design to be walking away from it and closer to it in stages. That's where the difference is. So the problem is this first half life has conditioned us to think that life is a spiral, that we just simply do this and do that. It makes sense, right? It's this plug and play idea that we have in life. Oh, all we have to do is this. It's very mechanistic in our Western society. But then what happens? Well, what happens is we get stuck, like anyone would, because that's the natural process of change and growth and transformation, right? But then we take it on ourselves. That's the problem. That's the problem. We take it on ourselves and go, oh, I failed. I have to do more. I have to do something different. And of course, in the way that we were raised as men, this is how it works. Oh, I have to take it upon myself to do more, to grind and to hustle, to work harder. And that stokes this cycle of perfectionism and workaholism. And then we get burnt out. And then we're like, oh, what am I doing? And then we have to go back, where we're confusing one for the other. We think we're on a spiral, and when we fall into a dead end or a mistake, we think, oh, we're in a maze. I have to get out of this somehow. I have to fix this somehow. Take those away. Take away the spiral. Take away the maze, and understand that this is the labyrinth. This is the labyrinth. This is the path of the midlife man right here. And it's a psychological challenge to us that when we start moving farther away, we think we're doing something wrong, so we stop. And you know what the cool part about this whole thing is? We know about this labyrinth. We know because we're creatives. I've always called creatives, I had this idea that creatives are cave dwellers, right? We go inside our minds, we go inside our hearts, and we create, whether it's a painting, a song, or a story. And we dig around for whatever we can, and we bring it back out into the world. Sometimes, though, we get stuck. We get blocked. Blocks are part of it. And then we get ourselves out of it. We come back outside again. This is a hero's journey. The going and the coming back. The departing from the world, finding revelation, finding that little piece of gold or jewel or artifact, and bringing it back out into the world. Return. That's the hero's journey. And so we know about this. So that hopefully that will help you feel a little bit more reassured, feel a little bit more at ease, that the helplessness and hopelessness you're feeling and the frustration that you're feeling about this whole mess is part of the design of the path. And just thinking about what I went through in my own midlife transition and the difficulties that can come from it, it's scary. We get in our own heads about what we're supposed to be doing. But I'm reassuring you right now, you're on the path. It's a labyrinth path. And if you keep going, no matter how small that step is, I know you're going to be okay. Just keep going, no matter how small those steps are. So what I want for you to do this week is to focus on one question. What path do I think I'm on? Do I think I'm on the spiral, where it's this effortless, one step after another to get to the second half? Do I think I'm in a maze where I'm stuck in this dead end and I can't get out? And if you feel those two things, start to move towards this idea of the labyrinth path, all right? These different rings that you're walking, they take you closer and farther away in stages. And eventually you'll get yourself in the middle, the center of yourself. And the fun part is getting yourself back out again. But again, walk the path. Trust in yourself. Trust in what you're doing is the right path. And spend some time alone in what I call solitude work. And I'll talk about this in a later video. But talk about how this is how you have to be. True to yourself. Keep walking. Take care. Also, before I forget, please sign up for my weekly newsletter, The Labyrinth Path. There you go, The Labyrinth Path, where you will get tips, tools, methods, and stories from myself for inspiration to help you throughout the week as we walk along this labyrinth path together. Hope to see you there. Have a great day.